Project, where we discuss maintaining a Christian worldview in a post-Christian America. What does that mean to you? That means we talk about current events, politics, religion, family stuff, recovery, but we do it from a Christian perspective. And we got what can only be described as a strange episode for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about blended families and co-parenting. I have a unique story in my life, and some friends of mine have a very unique story. When I heard their story, I said we got to sit down, we get everybody together, either on the phone or here in the studio, and we'll talk about it. But first, the intro music.
Hello, God bless, and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty, and this is the Godlogic Project.
Shut up, Kevin.
Shut up, Kevin.
As usual, I'm Kevin Haggerty. That's Mike Houston telling me to shut up, like he always does. As usual, I forgot to put my what we call in the business, my cans on. I forgot to put my cans on, what we call in the audio business.
Cans?
Nobody calls it that.
Okay, I was
And
like,
they probably really should never call it that again if they do.
Yeah.
So here's the story. We have an episode tonight about co-parenting and blending families, and I have a personal story. My personal story with divorce and blending families is I always thought kind of awkwardly unique. I thought mine was unique until I met Jenny. Jenny's been on the show before. Everything about Jenny's unique, as you probably found out. But then as I got to know a little bit about their story, and the cool thing is I don't know a ton of the details about their story, but it's an amazing story of blending and working together, what I would say, for the betterment of the kids, with the kids' best interest in mind. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to introduce my guests now. Jennifer, tell them who you are.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Little. I am owner of Anchored in Recovery and Recovering Addict, and a mother to two amazing boys.
And I am Christy Johnson. I am also owner at Anchored in Recovery. I am a mother of essentially 5 boys, and she's mainly the brains of Anchored in Recovery. I just do all the
I'm just the recovering addict. So.
I just do the paperwork. So, yeah.
So you are business partners. So all we've established so far is that you're business partners.
Yes.
And that under normal circumstances would be no big deal.
No big deal.
But
for us.
But as we dig deeper into the darkness that is your lives, no, I'm kidding. You have a very unique arrangement for your marriage and your friendship and you're raising your kids. So explain a little bit, and again, I don't know a ton about it, so I'll get confused as you explain it, but explain a little bit of what you do together when you're not doing recovery house together.
So when we're not doing things for Anchored in Recovery, we're moms and we're busy. Like Christy said, we have 5 boys. So I physically had 2 of them.
Explain a little bit, and again, I don't know a ton. Explain a little bit of.
I
Explain a little bit of
3. Yeah.
Hey, it's like we're rapping.
Yeah. So Christy has 3. So she married my first son's dad, Davey, and she had already had 2 kids from a previous marriage, and
both had kids young. All
yeah,
of us.
we
were all young.
19 when I got pregnant.
Same thing.
So she married my first son's dad, and they had a child together. I fell into, I got married, not to him, to someone else, and had my second son. Years later, fell into an addiction, and now they are with them.
So both kids are with Christy and
Davey.
Yeah, we took care of them
while I was out there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, going crazy, and now I'm good, so.
And
well,
this is kind of
just for today, y'all.
This is where the Christian part of the conversation comes in, because the reason it was so unique, and it actually has a lot to do with the kids, is from my standpoint, being pregnant young and feeling, and I'm sure Jennifer felt this too, all the pressure as a young mom to be like, I have to be a good mom, and everybody's watching me because I'm so young, and everybody's waiting for me to fail, and everybody's waiting to judge me because I'm so young. And so, as growing up, I always wanted to be a mother. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I had all these expectations of myself and things, that in my mind I had created that this is what I want when I have kids. I wasn't opposed to working, but I just, I was like, I'm going to do something I love, but I really want my family to come first. And that was born out of becoming a Christian, getting saved in high school. And there were many years where I, really learned a lot and just got a good foundation of, I had a lot of good mentors, good examples in my parents of just what the family structure looked like and what I wanted for my kids. Fast forward through high school and being just like a young teenager, and me and Jason got together. Actually, it was after high school, and then we were doing things we weren't supposed to be doing, but nevertheless, we got pregnant at a young age, and I think it was hard for both of us. I kind of kicked into mommy mode. A lot of that had to do with my convictions of I was doing something I shouldn't be doing, and now it's time for me to step up and take care of it. And I think for Jason, it was a little different because we were so young and nobody was really in our shoes. So we had this, it was almost like this struggle between kids that were doing things our age and then needing to be parents at the same time. And I was so black and white about it. I was like, no, we can't do any of that. We're not going out. We're not doing any partying. Like everything's, and when I say partying, I don't mean like crazy, just like our friends were going out and having house parties and drinking and hanging out. And I was just like, no, we can't do that because we're parents. And so, essentially that didn't work out. We got married young. I think we both felt a little pressured to get into it. And then we separated after my second son was born, very shortly after. So he ended up moving away to Ohio. He had gone to college there for a year, and there was a girl up there he had dated. So they kind of rekindled their thing, and they eventually ended up getting married and having 2 kids together. And, at that time, I was angry at him and, feeling kind of abandoned by him for leaving. And, we fought a lot. We fought bad.
You had one child, one son.
We had 2 together. We had one before we got married. We got married. We had a second. And then we split up.
Separated. And
he went to Ohio. And I was very, I was hurt. I was trying to hold us together. And there were a lot of things we just didn't see eye to eye on. And so we separated. We left. And he went to Ohio. And I remember through that, one of the biggest things that after that I had met Davey. We met at church. And I was like a hot mess. I don't know. But he was attracted to me. And we just slowly started talking. We didn't live close. He lived in Dade City. I lived in Tarpon. And we spent a lot of time on the phone. And then as time went on, we got a little more serious. I had heard about Jennifer. I don't think I met her really right off the bat. And at that time, Davey only had like every other weekend with Tanner. And I had the kids all the time. And I remember when Jason came back into town one time, I was so mad. I was mad, and he wanted to see the kids. And I was like, no, you're not going to see them. Yeah. I'm like, what makes you think that you can be gone for 4 months and then you just come back and think you can see the kids? And I was so mad. And I remember talking to Davey about it, and he was like, Christy, you have to let him see the kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, whose side are you on? And he's like, well, it's the kid's dad. You can't just it's their choice to make. If he's going to come in and out, that's his choice. You don't have the right to tell him he can't see his kids. And that was the first like aha moment for me to be like, it was like a kick in my gut. Yeah. And I was angry at Davey. I was angry at everybody. I wanted to be right. And I wanted him, I was upset, but that really resonated with me that you're right. It's not my choice. It's the kid's choice. And they need to feel loved by their dad. And it's, the distance obviously didn't help because he didn't live close. So it wasn't like he was right down the road and just could come and see them, and he wasn't. So they went with them. And what ended up being about a 2-year divorce it took us, he got his time and normal time. I wasn't pushing like, you've been gone for this time. And, my attorney told me you can make it to where he'll have to come back and visit and do this and that. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be vindictive. Like, I don't want that for my kids.
Well, why? What made you why weren't you vindictive? I mean, it's more likely that somebody's going to be vindictive in this day and age than not.
It was hard. It grew over time. And I think a lot of it too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just giving my opinion from the outside perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've talked about this some. A lot of when I met Davey and Jennifer, I got this vibe too. Jennifer was hurt by Davey. I think the way that everything happened and them getting pregnant, and like Davey just instantly being like, I want a paternity test. And she was really offended and hurt and feeling rejected almost. And I think what I saw from the outside is she was doing a lot of what she would call as protecting her child.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was vindictive towards Davey. And there were a lot of times where I think in her mind, she would say, well, I'm doing this because I'm protecting Tanner. But in a lot of ways, it was alienating Davey. So watching that play out I was just like, and seeing the way it affected Davey and even Tanner, and the way it affected interactions, even with us, it just broke my heart. And I was like, I don't want my kids to have to deal with that. It also, let me tell you, it was a lot easier for me because remember, I was not dealing with Jason every day or every other day or a couple times a week, so I can only speak to my experience.
Well, and you guys were married. Davey and I never got married.
Right.
So it was like.
Right. So there was,
It was just different.
It was different. And I just, one of the things I was even telling her before when we were kind of talking about it, I go, our situation is so unique because through everything that happened, God really had a hand on it. And I always tell people, because I'll get to this point, but, Davey and I got married. And at some point, Jennifer and I were friendly. We were always friendly face to face.
Yeah.
And one thing that I never did, and I never did this because I really hated it when I didn't always get along with Jason and his new wife at first. And she would get on the phone and like start talking to me when I'm trying to have a conversation with Jason about what I should do, this, that, and the other. And I just never, it's not my place. Like I never got into it with Jennifer with the stuff that goes on between, Davey and Jennifer about their kid,
One thing we did, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but we never ever talked bad about each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Through the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
So, and more importantly, we wouldn't let other people talk bad about the other person.
Oh, right.
Well, ours is more of like a progression. So we had, but there was, as much as I think even with you and Davey, as like fight, like knick-knack, you guys would be with each other. It really wasn't a lot that was just like directly in front of Tanner or things being said to Tanner or anything like that. It was mainly just the two of them quarreling. But like I said, it was a progression. Davey ended up wanting more time with Tanner. And, of course, Jennifer being that protective, like, well, no, her initial thing was always like, well, you wanted a paternity test and you didn't want him originally. And it was
now all of a sudden you want him. And
Right. So there was a lot of obstacles to overcome. So we did have this custody thing happen for like 2 years. A lot of it was over the name. Like, I hate to say it, but that was like the one thing. Jennifer's like, I don't care, like even 50-50. She's like, I can put that on the table, but I'm not putting the name on the table. Like that was just a sticking point for so long. And fast forward those 2 years and, they went all the way to the judge, which is kind of a big deal because a lot of family cases, their attorneys' jobs are just like, okay, we need to find some way to settle. Like, the judges want the attorneys to settle. They really don't want to see these family cases because legitimately they don't want to be deciding these kids' lives. They want their parents to decide their kids' lives and get along. And so the way that the laws were as of 2010, Davey got awarded custody. And one of the first things I believe the judge said was like, I'm just hyphenating the name. I'm not going to argue about it.
Hold on. Clarify that. Not awarded custody, like taken from me.
No, we're talking about 50-50.
Okay.
The way
But
I
one
just
was a
wanted to
custodial parent, and one was
Right.
Yeah.
right. The way that the states worked is that they split the time, and so they basically they were like, I'm going to start at 50-50, and unless you guys can convince me that one of the other is just an unfit parent, that's where we're going to leave it.
Right.
So, I mean, the judge was just like, I mean, the way Davey described it is she was just like really annoyed to be there.
So you guys have so you now have 2 kids from Jennifer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
2 kids from Jason, and then 1 of your own
With Davey.
with Davey. So you and Davey have 1 kid. You had 2 kids that
With
stayed with
Jason.
you. So you blended that. Plus you blended the original first 2.
Well, so my 2.
It gets a little more
Only-
complicated
So
than that.
Do you see? You guys should have your own sitcom.
We should. No, we really, really should.
How does Hollywood not know
Well,
about
you know,
that?
I don't
Jennifer
know.
had Tanner Young,
So
her and Davey, and
yes.
she gets married, and then she has Cooper.
Not
Who?
to Davey.
Not
to
with
someone
Davey.
else.
Right,
to
right.
Michael.
Yeah.
And I have Cooper. So that was a disaster, which I was on one of your podcasts before regarding that domestic violence situation.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So he's out of the picture. It was just me, Tanner, and Cooper for like a long time. And I worked and I went to school part-time, trying to finish like my AA degree. It took me like 10 years. It was ridiculous.
Me too, by the way. It took me 5 years.
10 years.
I know that's
What
in
is
your plan,
happening?
too.
Right?
Nobody's judging you.
No, it's all good, right? So everything was fine. I had the boys. However, I was not a good person. And so
Were you drinking and drugging at the time?
No. I was
Not
working
then.
for a doctor. I was an EMT.
Were you
I
like
mean, she was
resentful and
determined,
angry
like,
and those types of
She
things?
was very organized. She
No,
was
I
very
was-
on time. She was very together. She
Right.
was,
I could picture that.
you know,
Yes.
and
Very
that's what
obsessive
made it
compulsive.
that, like, because, like, she was very determined. So, you know,
I was like, these are my kids.
Right.
These are my bills. This is our house. Like, I'm providing the, like, I was a hot mess, but like I wasn't doing drugs or I wasn't even drinking. I wasn't doing any of that. However, I thought I could do it all by myself and didn't want to include Christy or anyone else in the decision making of my children. They're mine and I'm going to do it all. And I was very prideful and I just wasn't a good person like that. Like
I do want to make a note here for parents in this situation, and I want to reiterate, I did not get involved in their arguments. The only time I ever got involved is if Jennifer wanted to talk to me about a thing or anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't asserting my opinion to her because it was not my place.
So you didn't
I
team
could
up
tell
against her and
Davey.
try to
I could
straighten
tell
it.
Davey
Right.
what my
Which
thoughts
we
were
didn't
all day
have-
long.
We didn't really have a lot of issues that
No.
couldn't be worked out before my addiction. It wasn't until my addiction that crap just hit the fan.
It's just normal, like people who
I
normal things that people want to like stupid things that people fight about that you hear that aren't really that big of a deal.
I just didn't like her because she had everything I wanted, and I didn't like that. I was
So
jealous.
some jealousy.
I was completely like she got to spend time with my kids. I had to go to work.
And then she
because
figured out who I really was.
No, but like so I had to work because okay, there goes my my marriage. I'm getting divorced, so I'm not processing that the way that I should have, and I just like closed it off and didn't show any kind of emotion towards it and work through it. But then
So God came through with the judge thing because as begrudgingly as Jennifer wanted to hold on to that, God had other plans.
So the judge pretty much made it 50-50
Right.
custodial parent for you, but
and
everybody has
one thing
rights.
that I offered to her because, for years in her budget as a single mom, she had child support, and that was obviously going to be cut way down, which is important when you're living on your own and you have two kids. And I told her, I said, listen, I was pregnant at the time with Levi, me and Davey's son. And I said, I'm going to be home. And if you want, I do not mind keeping Cooper because I'm going to be home with Levi. I'm not like, I'm going to be stuck
What did you
at
think
home.
of that at first, Jen?
At first I don't think I was down for it because I was very prideful. He's mine, and you already have like some of Tanner, and now you're gonna have like some of Cooper. But then when I stepped out of myself and thought about it, like, okay, this does make sense because it's gonna save a ton of money. Then I did it.
So we have. I'm going to stop you for a second, but we have. I also have kind of a strange story. I was married for. We're about to call my ex-wife and her husband. I don't even know how long we were married for, but I think we were married for 12 years. But we had, and we split up, but we had 3 years, 3 amicable years to work out the details of our custody.
Oh, wow.
So by the time if I'm not mistaken, and Michelle can tell you the answer to this, but by the time we sat in front of a judge, I think we used a paraplegal. I mean, we already decided what days,
That's great.
Right.
50-50, this, that, and the other
It's
thing.
definitely a lot cheaper that way.
Yeah. So, and it's very smart to get divorced when you're broke.
Yeah.
I found that out. So that was a great plan. I didn't plan it that way, but it happened to work out. So what I'm going to do now is call on the phone on the studio. If I do this right, I'm going to call my ex-wife and her
Yes,
husband and
go.
see if they could join us.
Yeah.
Which line are they on? Can you hear us, Vankers?
Yep. We can hear you.
And we can hear you. So I don't know if you've been watching the show so far, but hey, these people are screwed up, bro. Did you listen to the beginning of this show?
I thought we were back.
I thought we had a crazy situation. So
Jesus loves us.
He does.
on
so
the
much.
line is Michelle, my ex-wife, and her husband, Don, my soul pancake, if I'm not mistaken. Did I say that right?
You did.
And they are Michelle and I have 3 kids together. It's an inside joke.
Okay, I'm like, you make me want pancakes.
Which
over
I may
here.
have gotten wrong for all I know.
Okay.
There is we had 3 daughters together, right? So we had 2 older
I understand
daughters.
why you guys got divorced.
Yeah. So
No,
I
I'm
mean,
just kidding.
I basically
3
jumped out a
girls.
window. I made a run for it. So, but we had 3 daughters. We had 2 older ones, and then we had miraculously 11 years later, we had another little beautiful daughter. But we were in kind of big trouble marriage-wise at that point. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of it had to do with me. While I wasn't drinking or drugging, I was not spiritually centered. I certainly wasn't saved. I was just a monster about money and ego and things like that. So anyway, and Michelle, I'm sure would love to speak into that. But so we had a baby when we got divorced or when we split up. And so, but we were always, I think, Michelle, you would agree, we always put the kids first. And we were, I think, for sure, both of us were always great parents. So what we became, in a sense, when we were married, partners in parenting, partners in running a business and a family.
Right.
But not really a husband and wife anymore. You know, we just...
It gets more comfortable as time goes on.
and
You
so it
find
became
your
very-
role and your niche, and it just works.
So, Michelle, what would you say about that time that, how did we had a fairly smooth separation and divorce and custody, and we'll go into a little bit of Carly's at only 14 still, so there is a back and forth. We now have a lot of fun with it, but Michelle, how would you explain that situation and the progress at that time? How did we stay friends and get divorced at the same time? Because there's been hundreds of people in our lives that have wondered that very thing.
Yeah, people ask me that all the time.
They probably ask you why you married me in the first place.
Yes,
Aw.
I get that one more. Yeah. First of all, we were married for 15 years.
That's what I said, isn't it?
Okay.
That's why you got divorced.
I'm pretty sure you said 12.
And we were also young.
Technically, we were married for 18 years, but we split up at 15.
I knew
Okay.
there was a
anyway.
3-year thing. I had that part right.
You said
Right.
12, but we'll
Yeah.
give it to you.
All
But
right.
it is Michelle, right? Did I nail that?
Yeah, you got that one. I would
Christy's
have to
running out of
say-
patience for me already. Look at her.
Oh, I'm laughing. Go ahead. Sorry, Michelle.
No, you're good. I would have to say, first, the key to it has been united front, which has always kind of been our motto.
So we
We
never
always talked
showed
about-
weakness. We never disagreed in front of the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
If we disagreed, it was in the next room. But if in front of the kids, if she said, paint
No.
yourself purple, I said, get to painting. And in the next room, we'd be like, what are you talking about? Why are we doing this? You know?
Right.
So we were very careful never to show division
Yeah.
in front of the kids.
Okay.
Go on. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, that was definitely number one. And it wasn't always easy. What we've done was definitely not easy, and particularly in the beginning. I mean, it took some time. It took some adjusting.
It was awkward as
what
can
did-
be.
Sure, yeah. But I'm a child of divorce, and I knew that I didn't want my kids to feel the way that I felt.
Right.
Because my parents didn't talk nice about each other and never spoke again to each other. And, they both couldn't come to my graduation. They both couldn't come to my wedding. They both couldn't come, they wouldn't be together at all.
Right.
So I knew I didn't want my kids to experience the same thing I did. So I knew that we had to do it differently.
I have to make a side note on that. That has to be exhausting for people.
For the adults?
Just to hold on to something like that and
listen.
And
to maintain
for years
that,
and years to hold on to something like that. And I know people like this. I'm not just specifically speaking at your parents, but
I think we have the upper hand as Christians. I'll be honest with you, not just Christians, but Christ followers.
Right.
That we tend to be empathetic to everybody's situation. We try to be, not always, not perfectly.
Well, forgiveness is huge too. Like forgiving and
strangely, back then I wasn't saved. I didn't get saved until 2010. So I was an altar
Michelle
boy.
Saved?
Michelle became a Catholic. You went through catechism, remember?
Yep.
But to me, like during the catechism ceremony, I was cracking on the priest in front of people, like I was making fun of him. Okay. So I was just my stock's going. My stock is going down with Jennifer right now.
Well,
wow, I didn't know that. Never knew that side of you. So the I mean, he asked if I had time for a confession, and I asked him if he had something to get off his chest.
Oh.
So I wasn't saved. Let's just put it that way. I can't speak for Michelle, but I believe you were saved at the time, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yes, me definitely. Yes.
Yeah. So she went a long way to become. Remember, a family friend of ours, a priest, wouldn't give me communion because I wasn't married to a Catholic one time. I think, is that what triggered the whole thing down in St.
Yeah,
Pete?
so we had to have another wedding in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, so we actually got married twice. So really, percentage-wise, we're not doing bad. We're batting 500. That's not terrible. That's Hall of Fame numbers right there.
That means that means you've been married twice. Does that mean you've been divorced twice? Or?
Do we have to do it again?
No, I think it's just.
No.
So Don, you can get out of this mess still. So
sit back down.
So we were friends with each other. I was actually friends with Don. Our kids played basketball together for years. So we all kind of knew each other. I could distinctly remember times where people my older daughters would tell me so-and-so was speaking bad about you at a party, but Mom straightened him out, or I straightened him out, So there was always that, we don't talk bad about the other parent in front at all. If I had bad feelings, it was towards myself, right? And my self-worth and my even fitting in this world type of thing,
Right.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think, it is frustrating. And one of I think through Jennifer's addiction, because like I said, I started keeping the kids, and we had a pretty good relationship just from that, building the relationship. And it was great for the kids to see, for Tanner, he got to see his mom and dad every day when the kids were at my house, whether they were going home with Jennifer or they were staying with us, and he got to see his brother every day. And one of the things that was really on my heart too about keeping Cooper is, Jennifer was a single mom. And I know those years that my ex-husband was in Ohio, it was hard. And I know that I could not have done it without my parents. Like, they were there, they helped me, they helped me with the kids, they did. And I just had a heart for Jennifer for wanting to do that for her. Like, she doesn't have anybody to help her day to day.
And on some level, she's doing the right things. At the time, you weren't drinking and drugging. You were taking care of your kids. You were working, handling your business.
We were just getting past like that stage, and we were just getting. It was kind of still awkward. And there wasn't a lot of trust there either.
Yeah.
I mean, she trusted me little by little. Little by little.
Did you see me? I was
not even. It was not even fully then, because they could still have disagreements, Davey and her, and it was still kind of a lot of going back to that.
It wasn't until my addiction and coming out here and working a 12-step program that our relationship just
Right. I
became so, well, actually, no, it was before that. Honestly, I was in jail and I had this spiritual awakening. And now the way that I saw Christy, so before working a 12-step program, like I just was jealous. I didn't like myself. I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. So I was just this kind of person, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of getting through life. So I go through this addiction and I always pictured Christy like everything that I'm not. She's this beautiful blonde.
She's perfect.
And yes, right?
She's gotten on my nerves
she
since
knows
she's been
me
here.
now. She knows me now.
So she's this beautiful blonde, and she's never done drugs, and she hasn't ever.
Ooh, I hate those people.
Right? No.
That's Michelle, by the way.
Oh. So I'm thinking.
I forgot you're still there.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm thinking like, here's this perfect person, right? Like, how am I going to tell her that I have this problem, this addiction, and
besides the fact it was like completely obvious.
Yeah.
clearly,
Which everybody-
we know that
which is
now.
like-
Everybody already knew.
always knows. Yeah,
Which is like
everybody
an
knew.
addict, I think.
I didn't. Yeah, it's addict thinking.
But she
I
was
didn't-
like, I remember when she got out of jail the first time I had.
well, let's not go back that far.
Oh God!
So
I
this
was
is
like,
the thing.
you should really do one of these programs. She's like,
It all, which okay, yeah.
And that's for
So,
quitters.
Yeah, no. So
Anyways.
I'm sitting in jail the last time, and I'm like, okay, I have to tell this girl this, and I'm like, they're gonna take my kids.
Yeah.
Like, and we all know recovering alcoholics and addicts, like it's not the kids' fault. It never was their fault. I love them dearly. You know what I mean? However, I'm thinking they're gonna take them, and now I'm gonna lose it, right? So I open up to her in jail, and like once I told her, hey, I have a problem, I need help, I was just like, I can breathe.
Yeah.
And like from then on, like I haven't picked up. I've changed my life. I've worked this program. So now I have this relationship with Jesus and I know who I am. So now I'm no longer jealous of her. And now our relationship is better, which makes our kids
right.
and our family just that much closer and that much better. Like we can, I stay at their house, like we can go on, we just went on vacation together,
Yeah.
like all of us, you know what I mean? And, like we co-parent the heck out of our kids.
So
It's so awesome.
That's a big difference. So I quit drinking a long time ago, and I went
Uh-huh.
to meetings, but I didn't do some of the things. I didn't pray. I didn't read the literature.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hold hands. I didn't hug. I didn't tell anybody my secrets. I just thought that, and I had respect for that, but I thought that I just have to, not drink and toughen up a little bit and everything should be fine.
Right.
And I did that for 17 and a half years till Michelle will tell you, I was as crazy as an alcoholic could be without being drunk. I mean,
Right.
I was angry.
White knuckled.
I was
Right.
just everything they warn you about. I became
Right.
and so that I think probably is why we got divorced in the first place.
Mhm.
But the focus, I think the focus for us was always on the kids. So
Right.
how are we going to make this as easy on the kids? What I was always was an active parent. So I probably changed as many diapers as Michelle
Right.
changed. I stayed up. I went to the emergency.
Yeah.
Slept. Remember when I slept under the bed in the hospital because they kicked me out? So I snuck back in and
Yeah, you
I
did.
made a bed under the crib.
Daddy of the year.
Well, I think one of the motivating factors, especially staying, because one of the things that I can say, and this is coming from blended families, especially with someone with an addiction that I think was totally a God thing. And I tell
Yeah.
people all the time because they're like, how did you do that? Like, oh, you're so wonderful. And I'm like, please stop telling me I'm wonderful. Like, you're putting the expectation too high. I'm like, listen, I don't know what it was, but God always put it on my heart. I go, I was mad at Jennifer a lot, and I didn't like her a lot of times. But the way that every situation worked out, every time I would get in a situation, I was just like reminded I need to be loving on her. Like, she just feels really unloved right now. And she does not have a lot of family support outside of us. I think her dad is really the only person in her family that supports her. And he's not even her biological dad, by the way. So I just had this overwhelming, like, God was like, you have been blessed with so much, and you have been blessed with people who would do anything for you, that would help you do anything with your children. And you need you need to be that person.
She's who I want to be when I grow up.
No.
I just don't want to grow up. So, but you guys, how did you end up starting a bit? What gave you the idea to start a business together? And then we'll talk to Don and Michelle in a minute. But
and Davey wants
I don't
to
know
call
the answer
in
to this.
So
are we only?
I came out here. I know, right? I could talk forever.
Send Davey my cell phone number, and I'll call him from.
All right, you'll have to send it.
We'll have to send him I'll send him the studio number.
I came out here to Newport Richie, and I was part of a different sober living halfway house, and things did not go well there. Who? No, Johnson.
D-A-V-Y.
Or just D-A-V, yeah. D-A-V-Y.
D-A-V-Y.
And so that didn't go well at all. So I left that place, and Christy and I prayed.
You had a lot of growth there, but there was just
but
one disagreement.
Right.
And then she ended up finding.
Well, we don't need to go into that.
Yeah.
So we prayed about it, and then it just happened. Like, Anchored in Recovery just opened. We prayed about it for 2 weeks, and it just happened. And
it was perfect timing. I mean, all of it was perfect timing.
The location, the name.
So I kind of knew about that as it began. It happened quickly.
Yeah.
And I remember because I'm like, why don't we do this? And then within a week, Jennifer's like, well, I've gotten this and
policies,
I've done
procedures,
this
guidelines.
and she's like on her computer. I'm like, well, dang, I guess I'm not doing any administrative stuff. So what am I doing? Because I don't think anybody's going to listen to me.
Don't you hate overachievers?
I know, but it was great.
I am an addict.
Yeah.
Through and through.
So, and I'll let you in on a little secret. Addicts and alcoholics think they're making up for lost time.
Yes.
So they don't sleep and they work all night and they get 2 jobs. I did the very same thing. I went to when we were having babies, and we'll go back to Michelle and Don, but I had 2 jobs. I was in college full time, so we alternated shifts, so we didn't let anybody but us watch the babies.
Yeah.
Right.
So no daycare until they were 2 years old, so they had to socialize. So Michelle, the story that strikes me the most, what strikes the most people around us, I think, is that you are in leadership at my church. So I have become a pastor, and I live and work at a church here in Holiday, and I don't know how many times we were on the subject of marriage and divorce with folks, and I would say something like, that's my ex-wife right over there. And they'd be like, what? Your wife goes to church here? I said, yeah, that's her husband right there. I said, they're in leadership here. And people would be like, I said, that's my ex-sister-in-law, and that's my ex-mother-in-law.
Yeah.
So that struck people as odd. But when the girls were little and playing basketball, we would sit together at basketball games too. And Casey would say, why is your parents sitting together laughing? I thought they were divorced, And so I think somehow and a lot of it had to do, by the way, with it. I started going to meetings, and I started to work the program, and I got a sponsor, and I started to unravel 18 years of anger, And but Michelle, kind of speak into the process of, we would do holidays at your house. Was it awkward to invite me over to your house for holidays? And me and a child I had with another woman, by the way, but we'll get into that.
Nothing's weird here.
Yeah. So this is totally Christian.
We're totally feeling you guys.
If we were Mormons, maybe.
Yeah.
Only kidding.
We are examples of Christians. We need Jesus. That's all it is. All right.
So go ahead, Michelle. Kind of tell your side of the story, and pretend I'm not even listening.
Tell us the truth.
Well, first of all, I love Aiden very much.
That's the boy I have with someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Cooper.
He considers you his stepmom, by the way. Miss Michelle's his stepmom. I'm like, well, not exactly, but okay.
We got that too. We settled on godmom. I'm like, just call me your godmom, but he calls me stepmom too. So go ahead.
I mean, it was a struggle. Everything was a struggle in the beginning, of course. And now I realize that we were meant to be friends probably all along.
We were
and
young.
Also we were very young and whatever. But so I've never had ill feelings toward you or your son at all. It was awkward in the beginning, and mostly because I was dating someone else and having him understand why
we'll
you're
talk
being
to Don
invited
about that.
to things.
That was not easy, Kevin.
I know.
I
And
know.
it was a lot. The whole co-parenting thing is a lot harder on Dawn than it was for me. It was fairly easy for me.
Well, I'm very charming and handsome, so that's got to be very threatening.
I think that's why Davey liked me so much, because I would just not get involved with it. I wouldn't make his life miserable, because there were lots of times when him and Jennifer weren't getting along. He's had other girlfriends who would try to get very involved, and I think that was a lot of it is just really trusting him and letting him not intervening because of my own insecurities.
Yeah.
And taking over or trying to be in charge because I'm insecure about the two of them conversating or making plans.
Don kind of played that role. So Don, what would you say about that?
I felt really similar to that, Kevin. Absolutely. Like in the beginning, it was really hard for me, and I think what really got me over the hump was, number one, was my relationship with Jesus. When I started going to church and realizing that everybody has their own journey that they walk. And like you said, Kevin, I mean, me and you were friends before me and Michelle were friends. I mean, we coached the girls in basketball, like you said, and we did many things together. We played poker together, whatever. So I felt kind of awkward on many fronts that, hey, I don't want people to think that I moved in on Michelle, or I had eyes for Michelle when she was with Kevin, and that's the only reason I was hanging out. It was strange at first. And, over the last, Michelle and I have been together for 13 years now. And I would say the last 3 or 4 of it, since I've been giving my life over to Jesus, it's definitely been more easy for me to see. Right. We're all human beings, and we're meant to love each other, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's for us. I think it's always been about kids and family. And I come from a big Irish family, and if you were in our neighborhood, you were part of the family growing up in New York, and so it was not unusual for my side of the family to have people like adopt people outside the family, including priests sometimes from the neighborhood, and it was always like that when I was a kid. So my parents stayed together, but they also barely spoke to each other. So if they were speaking, they were yelling, and they communicated by the thermostat. So one would turn the thermostat down, one would turn it up. My father actually bought one of those plastic things and locked the thermostat. So and I think if I was going to defend myself at all, I would say that I didn't want my kids to grow up in an environment like I grew up in, where the parents were always fed up with each other. So I would constantly have to listen to my dad complain about my mom, or my mom complain about my dad. So it was, to me, it was. I remember the kids asking me. One of the girls asked me, "How come you and Mommy never kissed?" Because somebody kissed, husband and wife kissed in front of us, and in front of a group, and they were like, "How come you and Mommy never kiss?" And I was like, And so it was, I would take AJ now after Michelle. I didn't date or anything like that, and I wasn't setting the world on fire, but then I started dating who would become AJ's mother, and we stayed together for 5 years, and she got herself pregnant. So what am I going to do?
What are you going to do?
So
she got herself pregnant.
Yeah. So we had a baby together, and then the wheels fell off of her recovery, and she went back out, and she's recently passed away. So I ended up having this little boy to raise, and I remember with Casey or Kelly, or both of them would say, "You're my half brother, but I whole love you," when he was little.
What a blessing for him. That just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah,
how great is God that he just...
They loved having a little baby brother. I mean, and they weren't wild about his mother in hindsight, but they loved the boy, So but I always corrected them and say, we're not doing the half thing, all right? So we are a family. As awkward as it is, we're a family. So they, there was always that dynamic of wanting to be around the boy, and we split custody almost right away. Is that right, Michelle?
Yep.
So we went
50-50.
Yeah, we went kind of 50-50. We worked out all the when we got divorced, it was like easy.
Right.
So we worked out all of the
It's
details.
not that common, but
over
I commend
years.
you guys
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
So we
That's
knew
awesome.
we knew what nights I was going to have, what nights she was going to
Uh-huh.
have, and so when I ended up, I had the same arrangement with AJ's mother, but she never really could take him, right,
Right.
because of
Yeah.
her situation. So I had him forever. I've had him for 8 years, and he's 11.
Yeah.
So we've been together nonstop. So we've had to blend the idea. You know, I think the girls sometimes struggled with. He's finally got a boy. I'm not a boy. He's a boy. And,
Right.
you know, we joked about how I raised Casey as a boy. I made Casey play sports. And
It's got to be one.
so so there was all sorts of extra dynamics to overcome. But it never, for me, I never minded having the kids. I was never the
Yeah.
dad that was like, I want to go out tonight. And, you know, I'm
Right.
stuck with these stupid kids. And Michelle and I both, and Michelle, you can speak into this a little bit, but we never let anybody watch our kids.
Yeah.
So people would volunteer, like at the dock or something, you know.
Mhm.
And like, I'll watch them, and I'd try to get out of it. And finally, I'd have to say, listen, we don't let
We're good,
non-family members watch our kids,
Well,
you
that's
know.
the good thing about
Yeah. all
this
of us.
because she like Jennifer actually stays with us part of the week when she's not working.
That's not weird at all.
No.
well, you know, coming right out of an addiction, the idea with Anchored in
It's my dad.
Recovery is that we're gonna.
Why is
You know,
my
this
dad
is-
calling you? Sorry.
Uh-oh. I think these two are going to fight before the show is over.
No.
He's calling me.
That's how close we are.
I'm the favorite
He's like-
daughter.
He's
I'm just
calling.
kidding. She
He's
is
calling
the
right now,
favorite
and he's saying,
daughter.
"Why isn't
I'm
Jenny
trying to
answering her
tell
phone?"
you.
That's probably
No.
why.
No. Look. No.
Oh, well.
She is the favorite
No,
daughter.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
Go ahead. Anyway.
Anyways,
Well, you're becoming my favorite daughter, and I just met you.
So, I mean, the idea will be that, you know, she's working at Air and then stays with us on the night she's not working, and then they'll get a place, and that's what Air is for. And it's hard when you're an addict and you have been in trouble and you have a record to do things that you know, to really go out and be able, as a single mom, to support
to
yourself.
recover your
Yeah.
life.
So that was another reason Air was just, it was just a godsend because we have so many great ideas for it, and it's just getting rolling, and she is like the star of it. I mean, she just loves those girls and does so well with them, and it inspires me. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm like, you know, the short amount of time watching her get saved and then just be on fire for God and then working the 12-step program, which is amazing. I wish I could do a 12-step program.
You now have permission.
Yeah.
Good. But it's just been like her transformation has been awesome. She
Yeah.
just inspires me every day. I watch her read, you know, she's reading her scriptures and she just speaks so much wisdom, and it blesses my heart. And I just think God is so amazing because there were so many times. One of the important things that I was trying to get to is in her addiction, we never told her she couldn't see the kids. Now, Jennifer was great in the sense that when Davey talked to her and basically said, listen, I think this is going on, and you can come and see the kids at our house. You can come join us in anything that you're doing, but you can't take them with you.
Right.
And she, you know, in everything chaotic that was going on, she did not put up a fight for that. And
Right.
as proud as she had always been, you know, it was
Like
it was a lot of humility. And
Yeah.
I think just the very thought of her actually losing custody was heartbreaking. So even in her addiction, she still let that go because she did not want to go down that road. And,
Right.
and we did that. Like even when she got arrested, when she was in jail, part of me loving on her was when she finally called like 2 or 3 weeks later to tell us that her incident, we let her call and we sent her care packages and we let the kids talk to her, and she would write letters, and I didn't write the boys' letters because it was always a thought in my mind. But when people tell you I'm so wonderful, I really am just a hot mess too. So that never ended up
Thank
happening.
God.
It was a great sentiment. Like I was always like, I want to be that woman, but I wasn't. So I did think about it, but I told you
She was taking care of
I'm
all
not
the kids.
consistent. I'm not.
So I'm
I can't-
okay with
yeah.
that.
So anyway, so we did, and I would always tell her, even when she was like denying it, like, when you're ready, I want to be here for you. I want to be here for you. And that was kind of the road that we went down. So we did set a really good precedent, and that was our relationship no matter what happened. And even if that would have gone on forever, it was still a good precedent to set. The kids did not get denied.
Right.
We did not just down her all the time. She was, and she did, even in her addiction, come and see the kids at least once, sometimes twice a week. She still made, even if it was for a few hours, she still showed up. So, when I say we're unique, it was definitely a God thing, and every situation just happened to propel us to the point that it did. And in the last time she was in jail, you know, she told me that she didn't really say saved, but she said that she had started seeing these women who were coming in and sharing the word. And she, you know, everybody was kind of done with her at this point. And she was calling me and asking me questions that I'd never heard. Like, she had claimed, like, I'm a Christian, but I'd never heard her say, like, a spiritual thing, really. And so when she was telling me stuff, I'm like, God, that's great. Like, she's actually learning things.
Yeah,
and
you can tell by the questions they ask.
Yeah, I had, like, begged her dad, which her dad, you know, Davey and I gave her a lot of moral support. We didn't really help her financially. And I think that was another pride thing on her end. She never asked us for money. Through her addiction. Her dad had helped her a lot financially. And so I was like, we've got to do something. There was a period of time she stayed with us the first time she got out of jail, and then she went back out.
We don't have 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. Anyways. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm a long storyteller.
On and on and on.
Needless to say, I was like, let's get her into sober living, was how I found out about sober living. And then she was just totally humble after that point. Like I said, the transformation, and it was just, there was a lot of trust there that we had built up over that time and that precedence. And it was good for the kids to see, like, looking back on it, I was like, we had this is like the craziest situation for a lot of people, that one parent's in addiction and the other parent's doing a lot of work. And, you know, a lot of times stepmoms just like really trying to prevent any type of interaction with that. And it's just, you have to be wise, but you need to still facilitate some type of relationship, because that's where kids get, you know, they're going to grow up to adults and never have these healthy relationships. And if you're hindering that, you're being, you know, you're working against, you're helping them be whatever you don't want them to be, or helping towards these hurts as adults it's hard to get over. So
well, as I sit here and listen, then I had an ex in Michelle that I admired. I mean, super stable, super smart, super responsible, everything that I'm not. And then I had one that was just horrific in her addiction, right? So I had Michelle, and I joked around, my friend was a sinkhole attorney, and I would say, I'm going to call McMiniman if that kid ain't back here by 6. You know, you're going to have a sinkhole at your house. And but we always, whatever's best. Right now, Carly's 14, but whatever's best for Carly is where she stays that night.
Right.
So if I FaceTime her pretty much every day, but she'll be at mom's for a few days and my house for a few days. And
but she has the freedom to do that.
And there's no competition except for jokingly going on.
Right.
Now with AJ and his mother, I had the Pasco County sheriffs had to take the boy away from me, and they tried to put me in jail instead, you know. And so there was a constant for AJ. There was a constant when he was a baby, but it was a constant DCF being involved, police being involved, and mom getting arrested, and then we don't hear from a year, and so it was. So as I sit here and listen to all this, I can say that I've been on both. I've been in the amicable separation where we put the kids first, and I've also been the person that has to say, no, you can't have them because you're high. Right.
That's why I say it's such a God thing, the way that ours ended up working out, because I can't sit here and say that everybody should just be like we were, because every situation is different.
You got to put the kids first, the theme and the whole thing. You know,
the safety is first, and everybody was on the page with that, and so that was really important. And then after that, you know, Jennifer just like, I'm a very like loving person, and my door's always open. I mean, like even with my ex, while he was still, he moved back down here after his other divorce, and he was getting on his feet, and I had done whatever I could to help him. So, you know, Jennifer's very much so like that too. So as a Christian, it's just like, man, we're just like, I mean, Davey's like, are you guys going to leave me out of this?
Poor Davey.
Speaking of Davey, do you want to call him on that phone? Yeah. And it's an old-fashioned phone, so it's a little hard.
And now.
So the Michelle, it was also strange, I guess, for you to see my never-ending battle with AJ's mother and having to play somewhat of a safe role in that for the kids, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was, there were, if she ever asked for help, I stopped what I was doing, and mostly Michelle watched them because I still don't want anybody watching that I'm not related to. But she would watch my kids for me while I tried to get her into rehab and tried to get her Baker acted and all those things.
Yeah.
And so while we cut her out of our lives, and she cut herself out of our lives, really.
Right.
I was the one she always called for. Her nephews I call them my nephews. They like me more than they liked her. But they got in an accident. We're in a coma. One of them was in a coma. One of them broke his neck. And the first thing she did was call me, and I was down at the hospital for a week with these boys, And
you got a big heart.
so but it's a matter of what's best for these kids, you know. And so we're the adults, and by then I'm saved, and I'm assuming, Michelle, I became a better person than I was when we were married.
For sure.
While not perfect, I don't punch people out of red lights anymore. That's progress.
Growth.
So I have on the phone, I think I have Davey on the phone. Davey, can you hear us?
Have a good day. Thank you. Yeah, I can hear you.
So you are live on the Godlogic Project with Christy. Do you know Christy?
We've met.
Okay, so Christy's here, and someone that calls herself Jessica's here. Is that right, Jennifer? And actually, I don't know.
Davey J.
I think my ex-wife and her husband are on the other line. So this is the first time in Godlogic history we've made 2 phone calls at the same time.
Making history.
I don't even know if everybody can hear each other, but
We should have just zoomed.
have you been watching the show, Davey?
I've been trying to keep up with it on YouTube, but I'm blinking in and out.
And he's got 5 kids.
I can,
Right now.
Just pulled through Chick-fil-A and got some Jesus sandwiches.
Okay.
Oh, God bless you. God bless you. So you are probably the first person in the world to have 5 kids and not be Irish.
Right.
I mean, as I understand it, those people tend to have a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Not
4.
Mormon either.
Yeah.
Well, I think Christians, they stack them up sometimes.
Yeah, they do. So,
Yeah.
I mean, now with cable and Facebook,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
you're so busy. Who has time to make a baby?
Right.
All right.
right.
So, Davey, tell me, what was the process for you? What was it like to go through that whole process with these two? By the way, you have your hands full, brother.
Right.
Process. Well, at the time, I didn't see it as a process. I don't think. I just saw it as one thing happening after another that needed to be dealt with as it came along. So, I don't know. I don't know if I can explain it that well. It was definitely a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But luckily, God really did have his hand in the situation. I think over time, and there were times that I didn't see that. I grew up in a really good home. I can't say enough good things about my parents and the way that I was raised.
We're all jealous about that.
Yes.
So
I'm just kidding. I love my parents.
Yeah.
yeah. So when Jennifer got pregnant somehow.
She got herself pregnant.
Yes.
Women, bro. Women.
Yeah, it was just like, man, it was the first time I really had to deal with difficult situations. If I were to be honest, like I had little small difficult situations come up, but nothing like that, And I was like all of a sudden going from and Jennifer was too. We were all of a sudden going from being teenagers to being parents, and then on top of that, we were dealing with each other, and that was not fun because in the process. Are you still? Is everybody?
We're here. The board's going crazy.
Yeah, we've kind of explained you guys' backstory, so you can. I know you have had all the kids, but we did explain you guys' backstory up until this, getting into our
current situation.
Yeah, our current awesome blended family
Yes.
that was a process and a roller coaster
with Cooper
to
and
inspire people. Listen, to inspire those who think that it's impossible.
it's
And
not
all too
impossible.
often, don't you see, and in my life in recovery, in my
Right.
work in recovery, and my work as a pastor, all I seem to get is the vitriol.
Right.
Is got to get even. These people hate each other
Right.
over.
It does not have
and-
to be crazy. It does not have to be drama. Like, you can work.
A competition.
Yeah,
It
there's
does
no
not have to be a
competition. Like, it's
competition.
about the children. You know, I had to sit back and think about what kind of mother I wanted to be, right? And I want to give and show my children all the love in the world, right? So what kind of mom am I if I'm taking that from them? She loves my
Yeah.
children like they're hers, right? So what kind of mom am I to be like, oh no, just because I don't like you, you know what I mean? There doesn't need to be the chaos, and it's about the children. It's about what's good for them, what's right for them, what's healthy, and there's nothing like our kids see me and their stepmom.
And then we
and her
actually learn we
stepdad
like
or
each
dad.
other.
Yes.
So
And all get along, and we go on vacation together, and we have a business together, and we laugh together, and we cry together. They see us do this crazy life together, and getting along. Like Davey and I, we have known each other since we were 17. Yeah, so it was crazy back then. We got through what we got through, and now we can raise our child together under the same roof with his wife and their kids. You know what I mean? Like, it's we're family, and it does not have to be crazy. There's no reason for it at all.
It helps for people like us that have people like them in this situation,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I've had both situations, but the idea that my kids are with Michelle and Don while I miss them, and I think I'm going to have fun while the kids are gone. A few hours into it, I'm like FaceTime, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "What are you guys doing?"
Yeah.
So
Hey.
I'm like, "Well, I think I'll go out and stay out all night and get in trouble, as long as I'm in bed by 9:30."
Yeah.
Right.
You know. So the idea that they were with Don or they were with Michelle, I know they're well taken care of. You
Right.
know. So
Well, you know, hey,
yeah, go ahead.
hey, Kev, I got one thing to say that you know, I think it boils down to the respect, right? I mean, we don't have to like each other all the time, but I have to respect that you're their father.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, that took a while for me to get to. Not that I didn't respect you, but that I had to get to my point. And I think somebody said this, you know, my insecurities as a father made me try to make it a competition, right?
Yeah.
And
I think too, what I've learned from Jennifer and from the 12-step program is just like constantly be looking at your own flaws and making amends. Like there has been times even in the sober house where we've had difficult conversations, and she, you know, try either one of us to be polite in the way that we say it and come across, and then receive it with grace and find a solution,
Right.
instead of being hurt and angry and trying to point fingers at each other, which I think is which I've played with, you know, my ex-husband, and it's a nasty game to play, and it doesn't do anything
Right.
to help our relationship or get us anywhere and help co-parent the kids.
And hurt people tend to hurt people. So
Exactly.
it is.
So
if you feel cornered and trapped and less than in any way, you're going to be more inclined to strike out and strike back.
Right.
You know? Does that make sense, Don?
yeah, and you know, my first marriage was a lot like that. Like, it was just bitter for so many years. Like, you know, we didn't get divorced for 11 years, Kevin, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And she just wanted my health insurance. And for me, that was just like, it was like one of those things. Was like, what do I do? I mean, I don't want to hurt my kid and drag her through the mud, but what am I supposed to do for 11 years, right?
Yeah.
And that is, I think that in hindsight, you know, if we deal with, and this is part of the recovery process and part of your Christian walk, but you learn to deal with things at the time and not just let them build up and build up and build up.
And don't make a big deal about things.
Yeah, pick your battles.
That are not
even
big things.
Right.
Yeah, and
know.
so you eventually, I think you're able to count to 3, right?
Yeah.
And
we work together really well today. Like, all of the boys are in sports. They're all very active. Like, Tanner, mine and Davey's son, is like fixing to start driving, and he's almost 15. I know, it's insane. And they're just they're boys. Like, they're on the boats and,
Fixing
doing all
things,
kinds of stuff.
Four-wheeling,
Yeah,
tubing,
so we work
fishing.
together really well now. You know what I mean?
to get all that done.
getting
So
it done.
in a lot of ways, it makes it a
Practices.
little bit easier. And sharing custody gives the other person kind of a break. And I can tell you, after 8 years of being connected at the hip with a boy, it's nice to have a break once in a while.
Yeah.
Psychologically.
Well, Davey and I haven't gone by papers in years.
In years.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Actually,
you know what I mean?
me and my ex-husband don't either, because we still, our agreement is still our out-of-state agreement, and we just kind of work it out. He's actually had him for like the last 4 weekends, because I have him during the week while he works, and since it's summer, he wants to see them more. And
Yeah, we don't go by what.
I don't even think we really use the papers much, even when we.
I think we lost track.
The only time the papers ever come up is if we're like really mad at each other.
Right.
Yeah, then the
well,
papers.
that hasn't happened though.
Yeah,
That hasn't happened in years.
I don't even know if there are papers anymore. Like,
Well, I could arrange for a sinkhole, Davey. If you need anything, just call me.
yeah, I mean, they might as well be in a sinkhole. But honestly, even when we did not get along all that well, the papers were just like in the background. It was just like we spent all this time, and the crazy thing was how much time we spent, and how much money we spent, and how much energy we spent preparing for court. And it was always about whenever we were arguments, it was always like this looming in the background. We just know that at some point this is going to get to court, and I just can't wait till our day in court. Even when we were at our maddest. And this happens, and I can attest to that, because it wasn't just for me and Jennifer. I got to live through that with Christy and Jason also. And
but when we were getting along, things were fine, and we could be.
And think of how easy this whole process has been on the kids, right? So where it could have been horrific.
My point in bringing up that is to say that the courts don't solve things. They pretend to solve things, but there's no way you can put all the issues that may come up or might come up in one set of papers. And even when you have them, what really matters is not those dumb papers. What really matters is just how you treat each other and how you approach each other. If you, like you were saying, if you approach each other with respect and with the idea that the kids are first, and the idea is that the kids are first. That's really what guides the relation. What guides your way forward, as far as sorting out the details of co-parenting and time sharing.
I think communication is important too, and a big part of it, which unfortunately is kind of a big part of being married, is really having like the same ideals and kind of like the same, how you want to raise your kids and how you attack certain problems, or what aspirations you have as parents towards your kids, like what your expectations are. I think that comes a lot into play, because some people might be watching and thinking, well, I have all these godly expectations, but the boy's father doesn't. And I know, like hearing Davey say, especially about the papers, realistically, between me and my ex, and between you and Davey, really, even from the beginning, like he said, papers were just things you brought up when you guys were fighting. They really weren't a necessity. We could have worked things out like you and your ex did. That being said, there are people, who do need those papers to either get their visitation or to protect their child from, a parent that could do them harm. So I'm not saying that's terrible, but in our situation, when you have two parents who really are just loving their kids, there is really no excuse for them not to get along, as long as they let go of their insecurities and they're focused on the kids, and none of this like, I'm doing this for my kids. Like, let's be honest, if you're hindering your child's relationship with the other parent, for reasons that are manipulated or not real or not good, then you're not doing what's best for your child.
Right.
If I had to pull out papers, I would have to have Michelle email them to me.
Well, and listen,
That's how bad it is. I'm not even sure I have
Kevin,
papers anymore.
We co-parent, and we're doing pretty good too because we have a little girl.
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have a dog
Sleeping.
together.
Yes, her name is Chi-Chi. Hi, Chi-Chi.
And you
Oh,
just
I
bothered
woke
her.
Oh, here she comes. So Kevin and I have a little girl together.
Yep.
That we've left out of this little picture, but
And she looks like me, but she acts just like her mother.
she does. This is Chi-Chi.
Oh no, she's
Chi-Chi
cute.
little
She's
Haggerty.
cute, Kevin. She's too cute.
And we're pretty good about co-parenting. We
Yes.
don't need
You got to take her for the
papers.
weekend,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He gives her oatmeal baths, and I get to love on her when I come to the Godlogic Project. Huh?
Look at her.
Yeah.
So I think we'll wrap it up here in a little bit. We're over an hour. Davey, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the phone with us because that's a big help.
Thank you for
Yeah,
keeping all the
I'm about
kids,
to have
babe. We
to
love
get-
you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get back in the car, and it's gonna get loud.
So I will continue. Just know that I'll continue to pray for you.
Yes.
And if
Okay, thank you guys.
and America wants to know, are you starting a cult out there? Is that what's going on here?
Look,
Sister wives. I'm just kidding.
No.
All right. Well,
Your
I'll-
last
I
name
wish
correct.
I had a good explanation.
well, we're
Then it works best for the kids.
yeah,
Yes.
amen. And that's the whole.
Yes.
That's I
Yeah.
think really the whole point. And that's always
Yeah.
been. And we'll go to Michelle now. But thank you, Davey. But Michelle, would you agree that's kind of been both of our approaches through this process?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the kids. It's always been about the kids.
And we have a big announcement tonight. Michelle is actually going to give me Carly. Do you want to announce that here on the air? That I
Not a
will.
chance.
No.
Oh.
Wait, can you send me over a copy of the papers then?
I need to review those.
I think I lost mine.
Carlos' daughter.
Oh.
That's our 14-year-old. We have
Oh.
grown daughters.
Oh,
First,
I
I was too
see.
young to have kids. Now I'm too old. What are you going to
Oh.
do? So we have a daughter together that still bounces back and forth. And now she's 14, so she's a little bit too cool for me anyway. So I'm kind of,
Yeah.
My kids are
if I'm not
getting there.
mistaken, I think I'm a noob.
Well, yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
No, it means you're not a gamer. I'll tell you that. I'm not an
We're-
epic gamer.
No, we're not. They
Is that
play.
like a newbie? Like a
newbie. Yeah, I think that's where it comes from.
I've heard the kids say it,
Yeah.
They're like, you are such a noob.
Mom.
but I know.
So,
Kids these days with
I
their
know.
lingo and
so hip.
I know.
I used to be
Wait,
cool,
that-
you know. I
listen,
had long hair and a Led Zeppelin earring. That's how cool I was.
This is why we're extra girly because we're surrounded by boys.
That's why I'm
Boys,
so
like
manly.
dirt
I was surrounded by
and
women for years.
Tools and trucks and tires and games.
Listen,
and
Jennifer is very girly. I only did my hair because I was
Just
coming on
because
this show.
You and for the record,
So-
we're worried about putting on the headset. Remember?
I was because yeah.
So she wants
Jennifer
us
just
to.
likes to lump me in so that I feel good about myself. So
Aw.
she's so beautiful. She is who
Oh.
I want to be when I grow up.
Remember, she made you cry the first time you were on
She
the show.
did.
I'm really
she makes me cry
surprised
all
with
the
Wait,
time.
were you on the show
cried.
twice then? This is the third
like
time.
The third time.
Wow.
Third or fourth, maybe.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So
that's because she's so amazing. She has all the experience and she is such a light. That's why
she is, and that.
God gave her quite the story. So
Stop it.
So I was at an event, a recovery event, and Jennifer came up, and the person I was with said, "How do you know her?" I don't know, but I think I know her. As usual, I pretend what I always do.
Yeah, yeah.
I pretend I remember how I know her. Oh, how are you? It's good to see you again. I don't know who that was, but she has that energy that you just feel like you already know her, you know.
yeah.
Oh.
So the Don and Michelle, I'm going to let you go. Would you like to take a minute and kind of give your thoughts on if you're going to give somebody advice, somebody beginning to go through this process, what would you tell them? You can take turns or go together.
Well, I mean, for me, it's always been about, or I should say, it's become more about focusing on the kids, like you said. You know, don't let the little stuff get in the way of raising your kids. Respect each other and talk like adults. You know, one of the girls said, and I think it was Chrissy, that said, it takes so much energy to be angry and mad at each other. Just, you know, it's easier to love and just come to an amicable agreement on it and see the other person's point of view on it.
And I think if you don't stops keeping score, probably helped me the most kind of come to peace with this. And if we were going to keep score, by the way, Michelle won because she's happily married and successful.
Yeah.
And you know,
Davey and Christy definitely won.
I have a dog, so
I'm okay with that, though.
That tells you anything.
Yeah. Well, we have a
At
dog.
least in
We
our
have a
case.
dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's ours. So.
Michelle, how would you sign off? What would you say to somebody just going into this? Hey, don't do it.
Don't ever get married. Just to be patient through the process and talk things out, and try to have the united front that we always had. I mean, just you really got to think about what's best for the kids.
Right.
They'll grow up to be, they grow up to mirror what you do,
Yeah.
or they go the complete opposite. Like I went the complete opposite in my parenting and my divorce story than my parents did. So, just try to teach them the right thing. They're going to mirror what they see.
Right.
And I think we're lucky now that we raise our kids in church. So our first two weren't really church necessarily. We would go to church sometimes, but if I could be quiet enough that everybody would sleep in on Sunday, I didn't want to go to church.
Right.
So the idea that that our two older kids have now come to faith. Casey, our oldest daughter, is ordained. Methodist
hi,
pastor.
Casey.
Hi,
I love
Casey.
you, Casey.
And she married an awesome
girl.
dude. My best
Yes.
friend left me for my daughter.
No.
So we can have an episode about that.
Yeah.
So my best friend used me to get to my daughter and then dumped me. You know what he called me the other day? He accidentally called me Kenny instead of Kevin.
Oh.
Yeah, so he really just forgot all about me.
Begins.
So all right, I'll let you guys go. I love you. Thank you for doing this. I know
Nice to
it's
meet
always
you
tough to do this
unofficially.
kind of stuff. I find a lot of people will talk about this stuff on Facebook, but very few people will talk about it on a podcast. So
Oh,
I
I'll
always
talk about
admire
it.
people
Yeah.
that come on this show.
We're open
So
books.
thank you,
Okay.
bankers. I'm
Thank
going to let you
you.
All
go.
right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
And I want Carly
Bye.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Have fun.
All right, see ya.
Gotta go.
All right, bye.
Chi-Chi, I didn't say Chi-Chi.
I'm going to buy Carly a pony.
There you
Yeah,
go.
you will.
See,
She'll be over here in a
Well, the
minute.
last few years, we haven't even had air conditioning. Do you think it was hard to get her to come over here in the summer?
Yeah.
I mean, she was like, okay, fine, one night.
Yeah.
Now we can play the same video game with the FaceTime
Uh-huh.
from two different houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she could have air conditioning. And so I'll literally have her, we'll be playing Roblox, and I'll have her leaned up on the FaceTime so we can see each other. And then I'll tell her to get ready to go to bed like she's at my house. Like, that's
My
enough.
kids
Get ready to
do
go.
that with their dad. They'll game and stuff
Yeah.
with him, and
Mine won't game with me.
No?
Tanner is very like I'll FaceTime him and I'll see maybe like his forehead or like his ear or something, and he'll be like,
that's his
My mom.
demeanor.
and I'm
That's
like,
AJ.
hey babe, how was your day? Good. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I love you. Love you too. Or how does he do it? Love you too. It's like, love you too. Like, you can't even hear it. I'm like,
Well, I asked him
Okay.
a question the other day, and he didn't answer. And I look at him, and I'm like, "Are you
gonna
gonna respond to me?" He goes like, shook my head. I'm like,
That's
I
Tanner.
don't
He's
see you. I'm not looking at you. Like
I tell
Yeah.
AJ, I say, when you hear my voice, you better think you're hearing the voice of God and
Yeah.
sound
Yeah.
off when I talk to you. Because I'm not looking at you, I'm talking to you.
you know that parenting is tough anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all just, I don't know how people do it without Jesus,
Yeah.
because it's hard
You
to
can't
be
do
a
it without
parent
Jesus.
as it is. It's hard to be married and be like, and even come to an agreement a lot of times with things with your significant other and parent. And I think, through our own faults of getting divorced from our spouses, whether it's getting married when we shouldn't have gotten married, picking the wrong person, or our own personal faults in why we got divorced, it's not the kid's fault.
No.
And we should really set aside and realize our part in that. And I remember I always tell people, I'm like, you picked out, I have counseled a lot of people going through divorces, and especially the way that, my mindset is a lot towards like men and their children, and just trying not to, because I was talking to her about this before, a lot of times moms, because we're so maternal and we do a lot of taking care of the kids, we want to be in control all the time, and we want to protect our kids. And you have to be careful to draw a line between really interfering with the father's relationship and what's actually protecting your kids.
Yeah.
So I just think that looking at your own self and realizing why you got divorced has nothing to do really with your kid's relationship with their parent.
Well, I've said it before, when you know who you are, to whom you belong to, right?
Yeah. Then you can't.
Then you just have this piece of who you are and where you're supposed to be, and everything just makes sense. And it wasn't until like I began this relationship with Jesus, that I had any of that. I was lost. I was crazy. Like, nothing was going to work until I gave my life to Jesus,
and
right? So now I know who I am and to whom I belong. Like, I'm good.
You're not insecure.
I'm not
It's all settled.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, let's raise our kids.
What
like,
a relief.
it is.
Right?
This is, they promise us a peace that surpasses all understanding, and then we spend the rest of our lives trying to understand it. When I ceased fighting everybody and everything. This, by the way, is the easiest version of Kevin I've ever had to be in my life. It's so easy to be me right now. I thought when I was single that I had to have a woman to create a home for these kids, right? So I would have the kids, and I would date when I didn't have the kids, right? So I had like a schedule,
right?
When we were doing the 2 days on, 3 days off or whatever. But I always felt like if I don't have a woman for these kids, then I'm not really creating a home for them. And I'm not. You might find this hard to believe, but I'm not a big decorator. My plates and forks don't match. I use paper plates most of the time.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that.
I love paper plates.
So less dishes to do. So the idea, somebody told me 2 years into it, they said, I confessed. I said, I feel like I need a woman to make a home for these kids. And they said, bro, you've been making a home for these kids for 2 years. They love being with you, in your house. Yeah. They used to call it the man cave. And even when we drive by that house, sometimes they say, hey, can we go hang out in the man cave? Do you still know those people? I rented a little side apartment from other people, And they were like, it was one big room, and it was a studio, and they got to be with Dad all the time and watching movies, playing video games. It was awesome for them. To me, it was humiliating.
I bet that, Michelle, too, I think this is another trap moms fall into, is she gave you a lot of grace to be the dad that you are, to be the parent that you are. And when she wasn't around, you were... at your house, you were mom and dad, and you were making the decisions. But from a male perspective, which like there are even times with Davey where he'll do something and I'll be like, huh?
Man.
And so that sense is heightened when you're divorced, or you are, you guys share a kid together and you're not, that kind of competition thing comes into play. And sometimes you can overplay that. Like, how could he do this? I've had people tell me where they're like, well, he didn't even know what time parent night was or what day. And I'm like, does your husband know that? Well, no, but sometimes we have to just give grace, and we have to understand that the fathers of our kids are not going to be doing the things that we're doing because they're not.
I think that's what works, though, for all three of us, is that we all three give each other grace. Like, there's no competition. Like, I know how Davey is. I know how Chris, like, and how his mindset is, and where his heart is, and all the things. Same thing with Christy. I know how Christy's going to react to a certain situation, or how she's going to, play it out or whatever. And then with me, you know what I mean? Like, we all have a common goal, and that is to love our children and
to get along.
Yeah, and for them to see us get along. However, also have a relationship with Jesus, right? It's more about heaven than Harvard. Yeah. So we all have this role to play, and we've all been through different things in our lives that it just connects, and we work so well together.
Do you know how crazy it is to have the relationship that we had, and then to have the relationship we have now? Yeah. And it's just like a breath of fresh air.
I can take their kid, like Christy and Davey's, like little Levi Nugget. We call him the Nugget. He's the cutest little.
How old is he?
He's 7. Yeah.
He's the hardest one to
Well,
explain.
you made it sound like he was this big.
No, but
Well, he
he's
probably
the
is
baby.
still that big because
So-
he's not that big.
Yeah.
My baby's like this big.
Oh
now.
my gosh, no.
He carries me around.
He's the cutest little thing. However, he has a lot of competition because the older boys. So
He's feisty.
Yeah, he's really feisty. But like, I can go and I can take him and do whatever, and it's not
And
like
discipline him.
Yeah.
Please.
I don't discipline him. But you know what I'm saying? And it's not like this weird thing. Or she can
Right.
have Tanner and it's not a weird thing. Or I
Or
can hang
Cooper,
out.
yeah, meaning, and you're the same way. It's not awkward now for you to take, like, it's not awkward for me to give a child that's not Jennifer's at all, or her,
Right.
vice versa with Cooper, and we take them and do things with them or love
Right.
them like our own kid.
Yeah.
Like when we were on vacation last year, Levi went and was like snuggling with you, which
He was.
I don't know if he was just doing that to make Cooper jealous.
Probably.
Who knows? But you know, and it was fine. Like it's just nice, and it is a breath. Like for people who are out there who are hearing this, and you know what a struggle it is and what a burden it is to constantly be fighting with the parent of your children, the other parent. It is so nice when you let the burden lift off of you, and it really starts, maybe you have to start, you know, being the one to extend an olive branch,
Yeah.
being the one to be the bigger person, be the wiser person, make a step, invite them to do a thing. If you're waiting, you may be waiting a long time. If you do it and you get rejected, don't give up. You just keep doing it. You just keep extending in love and extending in
She's
love.
an angel.
She's
I'm
wonderful.
not an
She
angel. But it's
She's getting on my
Jesus.
nerves. She's so nice.
No.
Right?
I mean, Jason, too bad he didn't call in. He'd probably change your mind.
Well,
but
I can tell you that Michelle could have set me up to look like a jerk, because I am inherently a jerk. So many times she would call me, she would text me and say, "Don't forget basketball tonight. Don't forget the award ceremony tonight. Don't forget." So otherwise I would have forgotten.
Right.
And Jen will tell you, I generally can't find my ass with two hands in a map. I'm always like,
I think that's
for-
a man thing.
Yeah,
I do that
I forget
for Jason.
things like crazy.
I
And-
orchestrate
yeah.
things for him
Yeah.
to be like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And I don't, it's not just another thing to check off my list or to put in my, like you said, keep score on
Yeah.
things.
Well,
because
we all three do it though, like because we all have our own. Like Davey is at DC.
we
Johnson,
do have a
and-
calendar.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Christy has
A mutual
We had the
calendar.
giant
you know,
calendar.
You know you've made it in co-parenting when you have a
we
calendar.
have a calendar and we
They-
share.
We
Yeah,
put the desk calendar up with screws so we
Ours
can
is
write on it.
virtual. We are a little. We are.
are.
A little
Yeah, well, this
ahead.
was a while ago. I mean, this was when I still had a flip phone.
Oh,
and it was
you
rotary.
know what? My dad still has a flip phone, and my dad is
Yeah.
watching. Hi, Dad. Love you. Thanks
Hi,
for
Dad.
calling Christy and not me.
Yeah, that wasn't
okay.
too awkward,
Favorite
Dad.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I could arrange for him to have a sinkhole.
Right?
Yeah.
I got a
Watch
guy.
out, Dad. He's in Apollo Beach too. Like that, there's a lot
So
of water
the,
down there.
We're gonna wrap it up, but if you guys were to kind of just give a quick minute or two about if somebody came to you in this situation, what few points would you give them? Just and you can do it together. I mean, you could agree on it. What few points would you give them to kind of, this is what made it easier for me. This is what if I would have done over again that didn't make it easy for me. That kind of stuff.
I would call on Jesus first.
Mm-hmm.
I used to say like to find Jesus. However, he wasn't the one that was lost. I was lost,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So having a relationship with Jesus first,
Yes.
like and knowing who you are and what your purpose is.
Dealing with your own stuff.
Yes, working through
Before.
whatever you've got going on, and be completely okay with who you are, and where your life is.
Like
And-
one of the commissions is, you know, love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love others.
Mhm.
You know, you love others, and loving doesn't mean that you like somebody all the time, or that you agree with somebody all the time, or that they're like that you guys. It just means that you are committed to, you know,
All the things.
being kind and pursuing that person, keeping a relationship and respecting that relationship, and, you know, extending kindness to them. You know, the definition of love is that Jesus gave his life for us, and though we are sinners, he still laid down his life for us. So when you look at that, like, you know, Jen and her addiction and all of these, you know, sometimes saying mean things and and doing crazy things. What am I called to do? I am called to lay down my life for her and love her like, you know, Jesus loved me. I have to show her that. And in return, you know, as I was like, oh, this is so hard for me, you know, and I was not perfect at it, but it, you know, God is so good because it didn't take forever.
Yeah.
You know, I could be praying for years and years, and people do, and God is just so good.
Yeah.
The other thing too, and this is what I learned from the 12-step program, multiple 12-step programs I work, is that you can only keep what you have by giving it away, right?
Yeah.
So I was this very prideful mother, like, these are my kids, and, you know, who are you? You're not their mom, blah, 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 right? So now I can honestly say today that if I were to know that I was going to die tomorrow, that I would be completely fine with signing over my rights to Christy Johnson on both of my children. You know what I mean? Because I know, like, that she loves them and has all the best intentions for them, right? So I learned through the program, right?
I might give you AJ before I die.
Well, listen, like,
Is that
I
so wrong?
learned that
I'm going to have to get a caravan.
right? That I can only keep what I have by giving it away. And so I with every aspect of my life, not just my addiction, with me being a mom and all of the other things, like I played that out.
God blesses it so much,
Right.
right?
Yeah. So that was a big thing for me was, okay, you know what? Like
I see it, and I see this too, you know, the kids, you know, when Jennifer's there, and they'll, like, even Tanner will, like, gravitate and want to sit over there and sit by her. And, you know, for years I did a lot of things for them, but I never expected them to be, I never ever expected them to pretend I'm mom.
right.
Yeah.
You know, and I settled that in my mind. Like, I don't expect everything I do for them, I don't expect them to look at me and be mom.
Right.
Like, I knew what a child needs is his mom. He needs to know that his mom loves him and his dad loves him, and in a perfect world have a good relationship with mom and dad. And that was a huge motivating factor for me, especially with Cooper and the situation he was in. Like, Jennifer needs to be well.
Yeah.
She needs to get better, and she needs to be well. And kids were a huge motivating factor in that. So it really was a motivation from the kids' point of view, and just thinking, like, I am never going to fill that void for them.
Yeah.
Like, knowing and understanding that me, no matter what I do, will never fill that void. And I need to do whatever I can to help fill that void. And if that means that I need to support Jennifer in any way that I can, and then I'm going to do that. And I do that the same, you know, with Jason, like I said, when he was down and out, and trying to just facilitate that relationship, help him get on his feet for the boys, because to have a whole person, you know, it all comes down to being loved and feeling loved. And, you know, obviously we want God to love us first, but he does give us parents for a reason. And a lot of people are broken and hurt because their parents were broken and hurt, and they didn't feel that love. And so, like, that was my goal. Like, I got to have that goal for them. I'm not going to do it. And it needs to be filled. And that's my responsibility, since God put that on me. Like, I'm responsible for that. I'm responsible to do my part.
Really,
you
just put aside your differences with the ex, and understand that your children deserve the absolute best. And what are you willing to do to make sure that happens, right?
Yeah.
Put aside the crap, grow up, and show them.
Or you better save up for therapy, people.
Right?
Yeah. So you're willing to work
It's
two
so
jobs,
much
but you're not
easier.
willing to let the
Exactly.
stepmom have them at Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't make
You're
any sense.
taking
you
love
know?
from somebody, and
Yeah.
that's not good for your child. Like, step out of the picture and look at it. Like, what kind of parent, like I did, what kind of parent do you want to be? And I knew that if I was taking them from this woman, and this was before my addiction, but taking them away from her who loves them and wants to care for them, and putting them in daycare, what is that?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, what? How does that make any sense? What? Because of my own insecurities. And once I got through them and worked all in how to go through addiction and everything else, like, now we're here, and we have these 5 amazingly beautiful boys that all of us can be a part of their lives and watch them grow to godly men, like that's what's up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I would do it all again to be
I know it's
right here, to see them like going to church and just becoming these men of
You wish you
God,
could have
like,
got in this situation the easy way, you know, but
well,
but I'm
we're
okay
all,
with it.
Works
Like,
out.
it's
We're all
okay.
human.
Yeah.
Look, we're all human. We
Yeah.
all fall short.
Oh,
we
yeah.
all need Jesus. We all do things. I mean, things weren't perfect with me or my ex too, and I can say I probably, I have to look back and take responsibility for the things that I did, and it takes two people. It takes two people to have kids, to get married, and to get divorced, and it takes everybody's issues for that to happen also. So take responsibility for your stuff. Don't hold it over your kids' heads.
It's not their fault.
Yeah.
Just love them.
So
everything you can.
I think this has been such an important episode because I can tell by the response when we made the artwork on Monday, the response we got on social media, that this is something, and I know firsthand this is something that people deal with constantly.
Right.
And what I find is, and Jen probably knows this already, that people, when they begin any kind of emotional or chemical recovery process, they're always looking outwardly. So this is an inside job,
Yes.
right? So if you sit down with a newcomer in recovery of any kind, really, the problem was the lawyer, the problem was the cop, the problem was the judge, the problem was the wife, the problem was the boss, the problem was, and I would flat tell them, I'm not in the Joe's wife business today. I'm not trying to help her. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
What was your part in all this?
Yep.
And scripturally speaking, we see that in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, turned the Mosaic law into an inside job. So we don't battle adultery. We manage lust, and then we don't have to battle adultery. And we don't just not steal isn't good enough. We don't covet what other people have, and it makes it really easy. So I think my experience has been when I let God steer the ship and keep Kevin as far out of the equation as I possibly can, things go generally pretty smooth. Now, I always joke the big difference between me and God is God never thinks he's me. But
That's funny.
Yeah.
I realize that I don't need an equal power. An equal power got me in this mess, right? I need a higher power. I need a relationship. I need that peace that surpasses all understanding, and I have to stop trying to understand it. It's everything's fine. Everything is right where God wants it to be.
Have humility and understand you're not perfect and you make mistakes, and say you're sorry.
Even I'm not perfect, and that's probably got to be a shock to you guys right now.
I am shocked.
So
we should call Michelle back.
No, she
Call
can
Casey.
give you.
Let's call Casey.
Yeah, we don't want. Notice I didn't offer to have Casey call in.
I know.
I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. This is a really important episode, important topic, and I'm telling you the experiences of this family and my family from a first row seat. So I've been through this. Go ahead.
I did have one more thought.
You just interrupted the close.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I am a professional.
I just had one more thing to say.
Okay.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
Epstein did not kill himself. And all right, so let me ask you this. Ghislaine Maxwell. How do you think she's? Let me ask you this. What's the over under on Biden now?
Oh my goodness.
This is the
Trump
guy.
2020.
I think Biden just guaranteed Trump a win in 2020.
Oh yeah,
So another 4 years of it's going to be huge. Believe me, it's beautiful. Everybody says so.
no one has ever done this. This is the most amazing thing that anyone has ever done.
So we'll do a politics show because I'm big into
goodness.
politics.
Yes.
I won't be on that one.
And we will also do conspiracy theory one,
Okay.
and we'll talk about the flat Earth. We talk about Epstein. We'll talk about it hasn't happened yet, but Ghislaine Maxwell's suicide. It's going to be tragic, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We'll
When
see.
my dad and Davey, and this is just what I want to throw out here too, people. The relationship between Davey and my dad is really cool, and all of our boys call my dad Grampy, which is
all
awesome.
of our families, actually, all of our parents,
but with the conspiracy thing, so Davey and my dad are constantly talking about every time they get together, the moon landing. My dad believes it's true. Davey does not, and they go for hours.
I will have them both on this show.
Please, because we need a solution.
this is just entertainment hour, people.
Do you know
I
why
know.
Bigfoot's up here? You know already why Bigfoot's up here.
I
but
don't.
I don't.
AJ and I, when he was little, started we started the Bigfoot Research Association, and
Oh.
when AJ was little, he'd go, AKA bra, and die laughing because he got to say bra.
Oh.
But we would watch Bigfoot videos when he was really little, and
The boys went through that, yeah.
and he would tell me,
Sasquatch.
that one's real,
Sasquatch.
that one's fake, oh, that one's totally real. You can feel like he would scientifically.
It's the smell.
So,
the smell, Mom.
And I think Miss Michelle bought him for his birthday a Bigfoot, so that's why Bigfoot's in the studio. So I've been all sorts of conspiracy theories for a long
goodness.
time.
They're fun. They're fun.
Is it all right if I close now?
Please.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Should we call Davey to find out
Listen,
if that's okay?
we could do
You
this
think Michelle's
for
okay?
hours.
I know, and doesn't the hour go by
Hours.
fast?
Yes.
It does. Thank
It's
you.
been an
for
hour
letting
and
us go
39
on.
minutes.
Kevin.
We're going to have to do this again because
Yeah.
I never feel like when I'm done with the episode, I never feel like, oh, that resolved a lot of issues.
No, I don't
It
think-
always just like,
No,
we
we
do
could
this
keep
every
on.
night. It's
Mhm.
crazy.
Well, now we have a basis. Then we can.
See how professional you were. A little bit nervous off the air. You were a little nervous to be on such a big podcast.
I
Yes,
know.
the whole world.
I mean,
I
we
heard you
don't
were up
have
there with Joe Rogan.
we don't have any viewers or subscribers, but we got a cool studio.
Yeah.
I know.
That's pretty much all we got.
I love it.
We
The
got really
lighting is
expensive
phenomenal.
equipment sitting around,
Yeah,
and that's
you.
it.
It's so
So
professional.
bougie.
Bougie.
Yeah. It is.
All right, so I might have to mute their mics to do my big close. I want to thank you guys for watching. We had a lot of fun. We're going to do all sorts of crazy episodes. If you guys want to be a guest on the Godlogic Project, by the way, message me at godlogicproject.com. If you got a story to tell that we can spin into a podcast, I'll do it. I've done a few episodes with people that just messaged me online that they had a story to tell, and we did it. I want to thank you guys for supporting the Godlogic Project by, if you're shopping at Amazon anyway, going to godlogicproject.com, clicking on the Amazon logo, shop like you normally do, and they are sending a 2 or 3 or 4% of your purchase they send to support the Godlogic Project. If there's anything I can do for you, if you're struggling with addiction, if you're struggling with a chemical or even emotional addiction, if you just need prayer, message me at godlogicproject.com. If I have the resources to help you, if I don't, I will find them. If I can't, I'll tell you I can't. I don't make any money at this, but it's the point of this ministry is to maintain a Christian worldview and to be of Christian service to the world around us. And Jen can tell you we do an awful lot of this stuff. We both spend a lot of time trying to make a difference in our little part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
What else? If no one's told you they love you today, God loves you. So do we.
Yeah,
Receive
love
that. Be
Love
blessed.
you.
And we'll speak soon. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the Godlogic Project. And if no one's told you they love you today, God loves you. So do I. Receive that. Be blessed. We'll speak soon.
This has been a Rev Kev production. Your mileage may vary.
Shut up, Kevin.